So yeah, the CPU in this can handle quite a few of these PSP games running at full speed, and this screen actually looks really great. What's going on, everybody? It's etaprime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at the all-new GKD Mini Plus. Now, when it comes to the original GKD Mini, I've actually got a green version, and I've enjoyed using it. These definitely have a bit of an odd form factor when you compare them to other handhelds on the market, but I think that's one of the big reasons I like it. It's just a bit different. And with the Plus version, it's definitely packing a lot more power than the original, and they actually offer a pretty neat accessory for this. So as the title of the video says, this is a modular handheld because you can actually opt to pick up their optional analog stick add-on. They're calling this the Mini Dock, and it actually connects to the handheld over USB Type-C. And this really does come in handy if you want to play those games from like N64 and other consoles that required at least one analog stick. And another thing I'd like to mention is they are offering a GKD Plus that already has dual analog sticks built in. Very similar form factor when this is all attached, but with the dock itself, we're just going to slide the GKD Mini Plus right down inside of here. It's going to plug right into that USB Type-C port, and now we have dual analog sticks. And the speakers on the GKD Mini Plus are downward facing, but once this is in the dock, it kind of directs that sound right to you. Now, of course, it is a bit gimmicky, and some people definitely aren't going to be into this. On the bottom, we've still got that USB Type-C so we can charge the battery up, plus a 3.5mm audio jack. They are offering this in two different color variants. You can go with white or pink. I opted for the pink one because this is actually going to be going to my daughter. She thought it was kind of a Hello Kitty little design here, and I think it looks pretty good like this. I wouldn't mind playing this one myself. But when it comes to the overall layout, I do like it. Same as the original GKD Mini. We've got a decent D-Pad here, which works out great for fighting games and platformers. And around back, we've got our shoulder buttons and trigger buttons. Now, these aren't linear, they're not analog, so they're either on or off, but that's how it is with a lot of these ARM-based retro handhelds right now. We're not playing PC games on this, and you know, for the stuff we can emulate, there wasn't a lot that really required analog triggers in the first place. Up top here, we've got our power button and dual micro SD card slots, so we can run our operating system from one of them and store our games on the other. Over here on the right-hand side, we've got our volume rocker, and this does have dual stereo speakers built in. They're downward facing. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got two extra mappable buttons. Now we can map these in RetroArch or Emulation Station, and these come in really handy for playing vertical games. Now you're going to really want to turn this thing sideways with vertical games just to get the most screen space out of it, but we can go ahead and map these as, let's say, our fire and our bomb button just to make it really easy to get to them. And finally, down here on the bottom, USB Type-C and a 3.5mm audio jack. Now, when it comes to the specs of the GKD Mini Plus, for the CPU, we've got the RK3566. This is a quad-core ARM CPU at 1.8 GHz. We've seen this in a lot of handhelds in 2022, and I'm sure, through 2023, we'll see a few more release also. The GPU is a Mali G52 MP2. It's got 1 GB of RAM. We can use dual micro SD card. The display is a 3.5-inch IPS at 640 by 480, a 3000 mAh battery. It does have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in, but with this early operating system, there's actually not much we can do with it right now. And speaking of the operating system, or operating systems, this runs Emulation and their own operating system called Lovely Child, which we'll definitely take a look at. So let's go ahead and boot this thing up. We've just got our power button up top here. We do have 4 LED battery indicators up at the top of the screen. I know it's a bit hard to see. They're kind of covered by that glass, but they're there and visible to the naked eye. And when we're booting this up, we can actually hold the A button and it'll boot us right into Emulation Station or Emulation, but we're going to take a look at Lovely Child first. I'm guessing this is their proprietary operating system. I haven't seen it before, so I'm not sure if it's just a GKD Mini Plus thing or if they're going to be adding it to more of their handhelds down the road. And with Lovely Child, there is a little bit of customization that we can do. We can change the background, and there's a few themes built in. So when you initially boot this up, it'll look something like this, but as we saw, we've got an extra theme, and I really like the theme that I was using. It's called Modern Museum, and I think with a little work, this could be a pretty decent emulation operating system for their devices. Very easy to navigate. We've got our top menu, and we can navigate this with the trigger buttons, so we can just move right over to our emulators or our systems and take a look at what we've got. And since this is using the same CPU we've seen in several handhelds in 2022, we kind of got a feel for what this thing can emulate, up to some PSP games. Does a pretty decent job with Dreamcast, but it's not going to do every single game at full speed. N64 is a bit hit or miss depending on the emulator you're using, but we can scroll through here and see that I've got some stuff set up. We've got a handheld section, console section, arcade section. You can add your own screenshots or box art, and I'd say with some work, this could be pretty decent, but it definitely needs a little work, so a lot of people are going to just want to use Emulation Station. We can swap over there very easily, and a lot of you who use these handhelds are very familiar with Emulation Station. We've got a ton of themes that we can choose from here. I'm using the museum theme that came preloaded. I think it looks pretty good, and this RK3566 handles Emulation Station very well. I mean, navigation's great if you wanted to do some videos for your games and things like that. You're not going to have any trouble with it. But I want to get into a little bit of testing, and the first thing I want to do is give you a look at how well this D-pad works. And for this test, I'll be using the best Street Fighter game that was ever released, Street Fighter the movie. No, okay, so jokes aside, I've got Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter here, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the D-pad on this is actually pretty good. But it is a bit close to the edge, as you can see here. Now, I've actually gotten used to it from using the original GKD Mini, but some people may just want to go ahead and strap this on. You could use the analog sticks with fighting games if you want to, but we're here to test out this D-pad, and we'll go ahead and pull off some special moves. Got some great movement here. It is using conductive pads underneath it, and it's not bad. I mean, it's not the best one that I've tested. Personally, I love the Ambernick D-pads, but this one's getting really close. I think they did a pretty decent job with this. So I personally wouldn't have any issues at all playing my favorite fighting games with this built-in D-pad. I think it's pretty good. Moving over to some more testing, and with the RK3566, we've got more than enough power for the lower end emulators. Gameboy running here. This is using RetroArch, and I've swapped it over to that original pea green color. I think it turned out really nice like this. You could go black and white or colorize it if you want to. Playing Game Boy Advance games on this screen does look really good. Got some Kirby running here. And again, this is using RetroArch. We're still in Emulation Station starting these games up, so Game Boy Advance is good to go, and that was actually one of my favorite things to do on the original GKD Mini. I like the screen that they opted to use here, and I think it looks great for these GBA games. PlayStation 1 runs amazingly on this little handheld. We've got Bloody Roar 2. I've just muted the sound in the game. It will work, it's just copywritten music. But yeah, I mean, I know PlayStation 1 can run on basically anything, so let's take it up a little bit to Dreamcast. So this is where the RK3566 starts to struggle a little bit. I mean, it's really not that bad. This is pretty playable. We get some slowdowns every once in a while, and I am at the lowest resolution with the Flycast core and RetroArch. Next up, we've got Crazy Taxi 2, and it's not horribly bad, but we're not at 60 FPS, and that's kind of where we're at with this chip here and a lot of different handhelds on the market. We definitely need a little more power or just better software development from the creators of the hardware themselves. And the final one we have here is PSP. I've got Tekken 5 running here at 1x resolution. And there are a bunch of PSP games that are going to be fully playable on this device, but moving up to the harder to emulate stuff like the God of War series, Killzone, and Midnight Club is kind of out of the question without frame skip. There was definitely a few more emulators that I wanted to test out, but unfortunately, with the software we have right now on this, I'm getting some issues. I was going to test out some more PSP games, but with this setup, we can only access OpenGL, even though this chip does fully support Vulkan. And when it comes to Nintendo DS emulation, they've implemented Drastic here, which should work really well on this chip, but unfortunately, every game that I tested, it would just crash out on me. Some of them I could almost get into gameplay, but then it would just bring me right back to the menu whether I was using their lovely child software or Emulation Station. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a little work that needs to be done on the software side of things with the GKD Mini Plus, and hopefully we do get a firmware update, because like I mentioned, I am a big fan of the overall form factor here. We're just kind of being limited by the software right now, so hopefully we see an update soon, and if we get better performance and everything that we tested, I will do another video. But in the end, I mean, it's really up to you. If you like this form factor and don't mind dealing with a few bugs here and there, maybe wait for somebody to create some custom firmware, then this might be a handheld for you. If not, just remember, I mean, there are a lot of other handhelds on the market right now with this same chip. But that's going to wrap it up for my first look video. Like I mentioned, if we do see a software update soon, I will make another video. But, if you're interested in learning more about the GKD Mini Plus, I will leave a couple links in the description. And if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. But like always, thanks for watching.